Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Turf Today podcast. BL,
Hey,
how are you?
good. You?
Not too bad. Raced home from a golf course.
Yeah, how'd it go?
That was really good. Really
Good.
good. Just riding around with the superintendent. Got to see a course I hadn't seen too much of, so that was kind of fun.
Nice to be back out there.
Oh my gosh, even just driving to the shop, driving down the little dirt road, getting to the shop, just giving you all the feels again. I love it.
Started to flutter a little bit.
Yeah, looking forward to being on the course a lot more in the foreseeable future here.
Outstanding.
Yeah, buddy. I'm also very excited for this conversation, getting the questionnaire back from Tyler. I know I've seen some stuff from him and we've communicated a little bit over social media before, but this is going to be a cool one. He's got some meat in this thing.
He's been around.
Seems like he's been helping out quite a bit as well.
Yeah, he's got a really good thing going for him right now. Good thing going for the industry too. I mean, he's providing a service. It's obviously a niche service, but man, is he's just killing it out there for sure. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Tyler, how are you?
I'm doing well, Adam. Good to see you.
Yeah, man, you too. Excited to have you on here. Me and Brian were just talking about it. We're read through that questionnaire. We're pretty excited.
Yeah, well, I apologize for sending you like a textbook to read through, but it brought up some like really good memories. I'm like, I got to put this in here so I don't forget.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the big part of it, right? You want to be able to get all that stuff out. And sometimes we talk to people and after the conversation, they're like, man, there was so many more stories I wanted to tell, or so much more that I'm now thinking of. So sometimes, priming the old brain and the memory a little bit's always good.
We do it's funny. I have like on Fridays, I call it my personal day, and I do a lot of reflection type questions. And a lot of it's really stemmed from like some of the search projects we've been doing, site visits, things like that. So I can like remember stories for, future content, consulting, whatever the case may be. But your questionnaire like really brought back like the formative years of turf management for me.
How do you find the time to take a day for reflection?
Yeah, seriously.
But I've learned that I have to create these, I call them buffer days and free days for myself. And it's honestly where most of the creativity comes from. And fortunately in a space now where I've got a team that you delegate things to and level them up. So something I've picked up, just kind of networking with different entrepreneurs and things that they do, to try to just continue to grow and develop.
Well, they have maintenance Mondays at a golf course, so why not have some sort of a personal maintenance day for yourself, right?
That's exactly it. There's a lot of maintenance to be done on TB though.
The reflection gets pretty deep.
Oh, it does. I've I've really tried to make a focus on my personal health, which has definitely been deflected for a few years. So, whether it's mental, physical activity, really having like designated time to do it. So I'm trying to be more intentional.
Right on. Where are you joining us today from, Tyler?
Well, I got home. I was in Washington, D.C. this morning, played in a superintendent's event yesterday at Woodmont Country Club in the armpit of America of Washington, D.C. And it was stinky. It was humid. And I just empathized for those guys out on the golf course yesterday working. I mean, the heat index had to be over 100 degrees. It was disgusting.
How many shirts did you go through playing golf?
Well, there was like a pre-shirt that I came with like prior to golf, that I, wore prior to going, switched out prior to, and then like they had like, your practice areas and stuff. And by the time I was done practicing, I was like, shoot, I got to switch out already. And then it was like, on the course, you just deal with it. And then like, as soon as we got done, I couldn't wait to get the shower. Oh,
Yeah, I'll bet. Well, you're
yeah.
no stranger to that kind of neck of the woods and that heat and humidity, right? So it sounds like you came prepared.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I feel really bad saying this, but when I drove back today, or when I stepped outside this morning at 8 a.m., and you could just cut the humidity with the knife, I'm like, I don't miss this one bit, like this side of it one bit. And I empathize, love being a superintendent, but that mid-Atlantic summer heat is just different.
How's the golf game right now? Still feeling pretty good?
Well, I joked with the playing partners. I invested into some good technology this year. I've got the TaylorMade QI 10,
Ooh.
and it has made an average person look pretty good. We use my drives on pretty much, I bet you 80%. And I'm no stick. but I'm fair enough to get around. I'm a tremendous slouch. And 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 we played pretty well yesterday. Yeah, I think my score alone was probably 82 or 84. So, and I haven't played in probably a couple
Nice.
I haven't played in a couple weeks, so it's nice to put together a string of some pretty good swings.
So was this a mid-Atlantic chapter event?
Joel Wyman, golf course architect, had sort of an intimate outing to showcase the work at Woodmont. They just redid the South Course, and I mean, super unique property. If you have never been to Woodmont, it needs to be on your radar. It's sleepy good, incredible club culture. Ryan Sievert and his team, Corey Lade and Alejandro, um, have just put together an incredible product. I mean, this place was bouncing. They've got zoysia grass fairways, Bermuda grass tie-ins, ribbon like tees. Dude, the ball was bouncing like crazy yesterday. It was so much fun. A lot of really cool uh, kind of tie-ins into the bunkers. Short grass coming into the bunkers, big, bold, flashy bunker faces. Kind of traditional Augusta like flash, but really, really intricate little knobs. I mean, it's an architect's dream, just so unique for this part of the country to see that style of design. So Joel, had other superintendents, golf industry people, friends of the industry, things of that nature. And it was just a really, really fun day of golf, despite it being 100 degrees. And then they took a piece of property. I think Ryan said it was about 20 acres, and they turned it into a little short course, par three course. Oh, they called it the Loop, and it was awesome. And I thought, man, every club, if they had 20 free acres, should be doing something like this because you can introduce anybody into the game, no matter how bad or good you are. You could putt from the tees onto the greens in a lot of them.
That's my favorite trend in golf right now, are the little par three short courses. It's so much fun to get out there and just kind of
Yeah.
zip around a little bit and grab a cocktail, have some time with friends, and have a place for beginners to start. It's very cool. You seeing a lot of those? You're obviously traveling a lot. Are you seeing more and more of those types of additions to clubs?
I think as you see, like with this, the new design build that's happening all across the U.S., whether it's in the Southeast, Texas, California, I think those short courses are becoming much more prominent in the initial like design. And then, you look at the Philly market right now, the Union League Torresdale just opened up their par three course. So that's kind of the first, club that's probably introduced that concept and an existing property. But I certainly think that'll continue to be a great amenity to offer members and golfers, whether you're experienced or new to the game or just this, just for social.
Yeah, we went to grass clippings this year in Arizona. That was amazing. 18
Oh
hole
yeah,
golf course throughout the day and then big course and then at night they shorten it to the par 3 course under the lights. Like it was amazing. You can get everybody in a day of golf like that.
yeah, Brian, dude. I mean, kudos. I talk about that event. It was a nice break in the week, and to do something like that, I was kind of like, oh man, no disrespect. I was like, we're going to some event outside of the convention area. And then when I got there and we started playing, I was like, well, this is really fun and very non-pretentious, just really good, authentic conversations with people. And I thought this was something that I hope he continues year in, year out.
We keep working on it. Yeah, we appreciate you coming out and playing in it last year. But yeah, Adam and I are looking at spots in San Diego right now. The one lighted golf course, par three course that they had in the area, they're shut down. At least the lights are shut down for now. So we're still looking around. Let's take a quick step back. You've got quite a background, Tyler. Kind of talk a little bit about how you found this industry and tell us some of the places and people that you've been around along the way in your journey.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. I've just been probably like anybody that comes on here, super blessed to be a part of the industry. Golf has brought so much joy and career satisfaction, personal satisfaction. But I started playing the golf game when I was 6. My grandfather, uncles, dad all played the game. Not at a high level. Just your general public, golfer, and just really appreciated the game. Grew up, watching Tiger Woods, and really was mesmerized by what he was doing, and energizing the game. And my cousin is actually a golf course superintendent in Northeast Pennsylvania at a club called Fox Hill Country Club, a gentleman by the name of Ronnie Garrison. And I'm always careful to say that because if you know Ron, he likes to have a good time. It's
You're
just
related to Ron?
I am
I didn't know that. I've known Ron forever.
second cousin. Yep. So I'm careful on who I tell that to.
I can understand why.
But Ronnie's been he's like the godfather in Northeast PA of superintendents. I mean, almost anybody that's anybody, that's a superintendent has worked under him, and he does an awesome job, man. I don't know what the secret sauce is that he has, but Fox Hill Country Club is always one of the best conditioned golf courses year in, year out. It's a Tillinghast design, and probably got inspired to do this as a profession through him. Worked at a small little private club in high school called Berwick Golf Club. And Berwick Golf Club, it's an interesting dynamic. I'm a member there now, which is kind of full circle.
Hmm.
But it's your typical hometown club that you grew up with your buds. There's the driving range is actually on this steep hill that we used to go snow riding, sledding down, and the second hole is a par three, about 163 downhill. And to the right of it is an electric fence with cows, and you can hear the chickens and everything else. Like, I mean, it's central PA through and through, and just really enjoyed the game of golf through that. Right. And spent many summers with buds and friends just going there, hacking around. I started working on a golf course when I was 15. And interestingly enough, I started at the pro shop as a backroom staff, and it didn't even last 3 days. And the golf pro said, "You don't belong here. Go down to the shed."
Get out there.
Yeah. And one of my good friends I worked with side by side with, and I just remember this vividly. We were on the 16th hole. We were push mowing surrounds. And it was just me and him, right? And I don't know what it was, but I was gassed, right? I mean, we were hauling it, but in the middle of summer, and he looks back at me and he says, "Come on, you're holding me up." And it just was like a rude awakening to work ethic. One of my friends pushing me, to work faster, work harder, things like that. But I just enjoyed being out in the mornings, him mowing greens. We didn't have AirPods or anything like that at the time, so you just really enjoyed the sounds of nature. And was fortunate. Then I worked at another local club called Frosty Valley Country Club. Tommy Heights is superintendent then, and he's superintendent now. And Tom really kind of, motivated me to pursue this as a career. And I went to Penn State, had a 4-year degree, and did some, outstanding internships. One at Marion Golf Club, then Southern Hills, and my last internship was at Muirfield Village. So quite a stack of places to get to go. And I look back, sometimes you take for granted when you're in the moment and working at some of those places, and you don't recognize how what you're being exposed to and for the people you work for and with. But the impact that those clubs have made on me in my career, and specifically what I'm doing now, I'm forever indebted to those experiences, because without them, I mean, it shaped my entire outlook on the career and the industry. Um, and then after graduation, I spent roughly 3 years at Oakmont Country Club in Pittsburgh, and again exposed to arguably one of the best superintendents and golf course maintenance programs in the world. Under John Simmers, and worked with Dave Del Sandro, Bobby Davis, Brett Bentley, um, man, side by side with guys like Dave McCaffrey, Stephen Hicks. Ironically, Mike McCormick, who's now the superintendent, was an intern and sort of like one of my really close friends at the time, worked side by side with in a lot of instances. So it's kind of fascinating. We were standing on the third green, I think 2 years ago, and just looked out and we're like, can you believe this is what we're doing? Right now he's overseeing Oakmont, and just such a cool thing. But I spent then a couple summers in Philadelphia at small club called Sunnybrook Golf Club, really unique sort of second club for most members, and worked for a guy by the name of Scott Kroll, who I think you know.
Oh yeah, very well.
Yep. Scotty Kroll, had a blast there. It was never a dull moment working with Scott. We had a lot of fun, worked our butts off, but um, had a great opportunity there. And then was in Baltimore at Sparrows Point Country Club for 6 years as a superintendent, 27 hole facility, sort of mid-private level club. Um, Man, and what a special place. It's certainly near and dear to me in how well the membership treated me, the things that we accomplished from, not just on the golf course, but from a leadership side, and getting to work with the local public schools, And really the community in Sparrows Point was, left a pretty big impact on me and really was the premises for why I started my company today.
Amazing story, Tyler. I commend you on all the hard work and everything. And I just wanted to go back a little bit to Penn State. Would you have been able to come this far without going to university?
The impact and influence, and again, I'm biased. I'm a Penn State guy. I know I'm talking to a Buckeye, and there's going to be from other disciples and backgrounds here, but I'm a Penn State blue and white through and through, right? I bleed blue and white. I live an hour and 15 minutes away from Penn State. Grew up loving Penn State football. I wouldn't say I'm like a crazy, football fanatic, cult member, but love Penn State. And yeah, I mean, you're exposed to, not only the faculty there, we had Dr. McNitt, Dr. Lanscoot, Jeff Borger, I mean, fantastic faculty that just really encourage students to learn all the fundamentals and, the basics of turf management 101. And then, you're clearly exposed to one of the most dynamic alumni networks in the world. I mean, not just the turfgrass program, but just Penn State alumni in general, and all those people who have influence in the game of golf. So yeah, I mean, would I have been where I'm at without Penn State? Probably not. And at least, I look at Penn State was it accelerated my career and opened doors for me that at that age I'm not sure I would have had I not gone to, school.
Hopefully they find a football team sometime soon so we can actually have a rivalry again with Ohio
Yeah,
State. But
gotta rub that in there. Well,
that's
listen,
okay. We just had to drop that in there. It's
it's
okay.
okay. It's okay. This our household is still judge and jury on James Franklin.
Yes.
Not that our opinion matters, right? I'm an armchair quarterbacking, but yeah,
It's been like it's almost been a decade, right? I mean, the jury should be out already, right?
yeah. I mean, listen, in my opinion, he's probably on the hot seat. Not if they don't make the college football playoff, but look, if you look back at the history of Penn State football, it's overpromise and underdeliver. We get these five-star athletes, and all of a sudden it's like, they get one or two, and there's this big idea, Drew Aller coming in, he's going to change it. Well, is it the Indian or is it the arrow? I'm pretty sure in this case it's actually the Indian, not the arrow, because for whatever reason, it's just the culture of Penn State is we're blanked with mediocrity, at least in the last 15, 20 years.
No, you guys you'll find it.
Good
So
program.
yeah, very good program. And all jokes aside, I love Penn State. Some of my fondest memories are going to the campus and going to the games with my dad. But after you talked about some of the internships while you were at Penn State and some of your experiences when you got out. I mean, you worked for Russ, for Paul Latshaw, for Zimmers. You had some incredible mentors. What are some of the things? I'm assuming that was kind of like the real education when you got to work for those guys. Talk about some of the things that you learned from some of those mentors of yours.
Yeah, well, I'll probably see Matt Schaefer tomorrow, and if there was, they all had different impacts in different ways, positive and good experiences working for them all. But I'll start with Matt. I was 18, mowing greens mowing greens at Marion, and I was a boy amongst men, and the speed of operation was something I wasn't accustomed to, right? So just really understanding the level of detail, the pace, the sense of urgency. You had the guys I worked with, Scott Bordner, Ryan Tuxhorn. Ryan Tuxhorn's at Somerset Hills. Scott Bordner is the Union League. Jamie Capus, who is out of the industry now, but was a golf course superintendent at Woodway Country Club. And, you've got these guys kind of mentoring and coaching you, and it was a really competitive environment, but in a healthy way. Probably similar. I listened to the podcast with Chad, very similar, probably, style there. And, I would probably go on record saying I've never seen a golf course as firm as what it was under Matt. I mean, living on the edge pretty much every day and really seeing that stress level on a golf course, but it was managed that way. And that was just the standard. It wasn't like, people running around with their heads cut off. That's just kind of what the standard was. And, Matt and I joke about a story. They asked me, I was going to go over to the West Course and take one of the John Deere tractors. And I had no clue how to run a tractor. And I was like deer in headlights. And Matt walks over just very patiently, puts his legs up on the stand and says, you know how to run this thing? And I just looked at him like scared shitless, scared. And I was like, Mr. Schaefer, I do not. And, you know, that's how fundamental, you know, my learning experience was. But Marion was, it was a grind in a really unique way. And I always laugh when I hear people talk about, you know, what they have to do today. It's a hard job. You know, when we were interns, you went and parked your cart, and I'll use number two, just cross the street off of Ardmore Ave. You parked your cart and you walked the hose, holes 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you walked back up to the cart. You didn't drive a cart. You walked 150 foot, you know, 2 inch hose, inch and a quarter, you know, inch and a quarter, 2 inch hose. You drug it everywhere, right? So that was that was manual labor, and you had to do it in front of play, around play, and be pretty discreet about it. So, you know, that really toughened me up. And then the next summer, you know, I enjoyed that environment. And Matt said, I want you to go work for a friend of mine who just took over at Southern Hills, and they're going to host the PGA Championship next year. And, you know, with Russ, he was kind of, I think, in his first year, you know, first full year at Southern Hills. So he came in, I think, 2006. The PGA was in 2007. And the one thing that I really appreciated and look back on is that Russ didn't coddle you. Neither did Chris Wilson, who's now at LACC, and Jeremy Dobson, you know, rest his soul. They didn't coddle you. You know, you had to level up your game to the standard that was there amongst the superintendents, the assistants, the AITs. I mean, we had 5-star talent from crew level positions, AITs, interns. I mean, I think just, you know, you could go through the list of Marion, any of those clubs and guys that I worked with. There's probably at least 10 from each of those stops that I worked with side by side that are superintendents across the country. So it was kind of humbling for me. You know, I just came from Marion and thought, oh, you know, probably going to be a leg up on everybody. And it was just like, get in order, because there's 5-star athletes all through. But I really learned a sense of ownership that summer. I was the bunker captain, and you know, I worked with 2 Latino guys that didn't speak a lick of English. And here I'm a transplant Yankee from Pennsylvania coming to Oklahoma, but we had such a blast. We worked extremely hard. I joke, I went into the summer, I think like 275. You know, Penn State, we do have some fun up there, you know, like to party and have a good time. But I came out of that summer weighing a buck 80.
Oh,
And
wow.
my mom, when she saw me when I got back from Oklahoma, was like so scared because she couldn't believe how much weight I lost. And listen, it's not like we didn't eat or anything like that. I just worked really, really hard. But I really enjoyed
You don't usually hear of people putting on weight and working turf at the same time. It doesn't usually work that way.
I need to get on a few greens loops right now and make that part of like a regular routine. You know, again, like when you're in that environment where you have everybody's kind of looking to progress their careers, whether at the intern level, AIT, you got to bring it. You got to bring it every day, because if you don't, somebody else is, and that's where the attention is going to go. But that was the standard, you know. And I think, like I said, Russ wasn't a guy to coddle you. He kind of laid out the expectations, you know, and you followed suit. But I think Russ was, you know, he also approached things, I think, probably a little bit more laid back in many instances. He didn't micromanage. I don't feel like anybody there micromanaged whatsoever. And you know, kind of rose the occasion. You got the PGA Championship. I mean, it's hard to not get motivated when your product's being presented, you know, across the world. And I really enjoyed that, but didn't really see myself growing grass in Oklahoma heat. God bless all those guys that do that down there. It's a different environment.
Well, hang on a second, Tyler. We can't go too far yet because there might be a Tiger story from that PGA championship. He won it that year, didn't he?
So I do have one. So all summer long, you know, my role at the time was to make sure there's no fried eggs. You know, Kerry Hay and the PGA crew was pretty intentional about that. And so we did everything from checking depths almost every single day, you know, plate tamping using wetting agents on sand. And the 12th hole at Southern Hills, I believe it's a short par four. I think it's 12 or 13. Um, I think it was the Saturday round. Maybe it was a Saturday round that Tiger was like, he ended up shooting like one of the lowest scores in PGA history. but it all started from an up and down from a fried egg on the 12th hole.
Nice.
So I like to say my claim to fame is I motivated or inspired Tiger Woods. You know,
Absolutely. I think you're you're right there.
yeah, the roars that you could hear when Tiger was playing at the elite level that he was unlike anything you see in golf. I mean, it was just awesome to be a part of that, and get a picture with Tiger Woods at the end. I mean, as a kid growing up, and then to see your hero win a major at a place that you helped create some of that product. I mean, such a cool thing. I still have all the tickets from that week. I've got photos from that week. I've got a Tiger Woods like a memorabilia plaque that came from that week. So yeah, sometimes you take for granted those opportunities. When you look back and say, man, like now you look at Tiger's career where it is now, and playing a small part in that. It's just, again, motivational and inspiring to be a part of this industry and in tournament level golf.
Oh, well, sorry for cutting you off there, but it gives me chills whenever I hear the name.
Yeah, it was interesting too. My uncle flew out that week. My uncle and I were really great uncle were really really close, and he came out that week, spent the week with me, stayed at our intern house, went to the golf course every day. I didn't really see him, but to have a family member come out there, cross country to support, me, but more importantly, go see golf. That was pretty cool.
We joked earlier about Penn State's football coach, but tying that into this industry, how similar are golf course superintendents and athletic team coaches?
I mean, I say this in a lot of our search projects as you look at superintendents like college football recruiting. They're coaching, they're developing, nurturing talent. Always they're always reassessing their game plans, playing offense, both defense, and then you look at the assistants are sort of like offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, um, so, and they're up against critics that don't know their job, and don't understand the intricacies that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So there's a lot of similarities and parallels between those two sort of, career pathways. And you look at the mentorship trees. I mean, backing up a little bit, tell this story. When I was in high school, part of that sort of motivation of like, how did you go to Marion? How did you decide to make that calculated decision? I was playing junior league baseball in the summertime, and we went to I mean, you talk about middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. I mean, there's not even I don't even think there's a traffic light in this town called Herndon, Pennsylvania. And the baseball field to kind of set the stage was like Field of Dreams. You had cornfields all around. Um, I mean, it was blazing hot summer, and my parents were sitting in center field with their t-shirts were Penn State turfgrass t-shirts, and this elderly lady said, "Oh, my brother and his son, both went to Penn State." And she told my parents her name, and I'd never heard who the heck this person was, right? So the next day I go into work and I asked my boss, Tommy, I said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this guy, Paul Latshaw?" And he looked at me and he says, "You need to go on Google and you need to do some research." And I was blown away, that a golf course superintendent had as much, reputation, notoriety, as Mr. Latshaw. And, it was a very pivotal point in my career of saying, I want to go work for that guy. I want to work for either him or people that have worked for him, not really knowing what that would entail. And that kind of spearheaded, getting to work for Matt, and then all the other guys. And then ultimately, my last internship was with Paul B. And, you know, I, I think, I think that a lot of times people are misperceived if you don't know what it's like working for, individuals. You kind of hear different rumors and stories. And I will tell you what, it was a master class of greenskeeping going to work for Paul. I mean, buttoned up, professional, safety. I mean, no shortcuts. And again, similar to Russ or Matt, is you got to bring it every day because the person right next to you is, and you don't want to be you don't want to be that person that's kind of letting down the team. Peer pressure is a really a valuable thing. And the guys that I worked with, you name them: Jake Gargis, Lucas Loans, Scott Pavalco, Matt Powell, Kyle Callahan. Guys that are now in premier jobs all over the country. Kevin Cooper, Rich McIntosh, J.R. Lynn. I mean, these are guys I work side by side with. So Muirfield was really a capstone at that, at that juncture, because you really got engaged to everything from, again, from safety orientation, uh, best practices on spray applications, programming, water management. So you're exposed at a really high level. And then again, then you look at the network, the network of people that came in to volunteer at those tournaments. I think of guys like Dave McIntosh, Sean Anderson that I met through this, Bob Wolverton, was a volunteer at Muirfield. It's a who's list of, some of the most accomplished superintendents, in the country. And you don't know that at that time. So, um, my experience at Muirfield was pretty special. I mean, I love that area. The Dublin community is really, really unique. There's a lot of things to do, whether you're a young up and comer or an experienced turf professional. I loved it. I enjoyed Dublin. I actually, I don't know if I would call it a regret, because I don't really have a lot of regrets, but I would say not going back there was probably one of the hardest decisions, because I really love the culture there. Tournament week, you've got the Buckeye band, best band in the land, coming and marching up
Best
the,
damn band in the land. Get that right.
yeah,
Get that
yeah.
right.
So, they're marching up the 18th fairway. People that are having parties along, all the holes, the corporate hospitality and stuff. It was just a very impressionable place. And the culture of the people, Nicholas Araka was there. The management team just really took to heart how important, tournament week was, and what Muirfield's impact is in the community. I mean, that's stuff beyond turf that not a lot of places, I think, can really replicate. I know Augusta, has their tournament, and a lot of places that have the annual tournaments, they can offer that. But that was something that was very impressionable to me early on.
I'm assuming you guys had some fun. That many high level employees. I'm sure there's some work hard, play hard going on over there.
Well, I was the bearer of I'm a very gullible person. Okay. I trust people probably too much. Right. And so I was the intern that got, picked on quite a bit for many reasons. And the fun story that always gets circulated amongst our group of friends is the sod stretcher story.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so the glorious sod stretcher. So the sixth hole at Muirfield Village is on the farthest part of the property in comparison to the shop. And I was out there working with his name was Rob Frederick, and I can't remember who else was with us. And we were doing some sod repair along the pond. And Rob's there, and he's like, I just remember this, him being like acting like he was so frustrated. We're all sweating, and he's like, oh gosh, Tyler, I can't believe we forgot the sod stretcher. I need you to go back like ASAP. If Paul sees us out here not working with this, he's going to lose it. Jake's going to get upset. So I'm hauling ass back to the shop. You know, I get back there and I'm like, I don't even know what the heck I'm supposed to be even looking for. Right? And here I'm this gullible intern, like looking around. Bill Clater, the mechanic, comes like, kind of gives you this discerning look like, what's this guy up to? Bill comes over and he says, Tyler, can I help you with something? And I was like, man, I'm really embarrassed. I was like, Rob says we need the sod stretcher. And Bill straight faced is like, oh, I think it's over in the tournament barn.
Nice.
So I go on this wild goose chase for a sod stretcher, right? And again, like now there it's like within the management team of what's going on. And I have a radio. And so Jake gets on the radio and he's like, Tyler, I'm out here at number 6. Are you getting back here anytime soon? Pretty soon Scott Pavalco jumps on the radio, like it makes its way, and then all of a sudden the radio call comes from Paul. And
No.
I'm just like, oh shit, I am screwed. And Paul, something to the tune of like, yeah, Tyler, it's really disappointing it's taken you this long to find that sod stretcher. And all of a sudden he's like, can you come back out here to number 6? And it was a group of guys just laughing their butts off at me. And I just had no idea. And then I was like, wow, I just totally got spammed.
The old
That's
banana peeler
incredible.
trick.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. I
So,
love that straight laced Bill Clater even got involved in the mix. That's great.
they knew it. And then it was just like, man, that might have been like June. And they were like, oh, we got this sucker. So it was pretty commonplace every other week. It was like, oh, what can we pull Tyler on now?
That's awesome. So number six is now one of the closest holes to the shop. So that would have been a little better back in your day. But you mentioned all those names that you were working side by side with, and I've had this conversation with a few other guys. How how helpful is it to have that friendly competition amongst whether interns or assistants, all kind of striving to take that next step? Is it war? Are you guys at each other trying to one up each other, or is there really that team bond that's really kind of helping push you all together as a team? I always think that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, well, I think in the right culture that I think it's not competitive or it's cutthroat, right? But it's more motivational and you're kind of going through war together. You're in the trenches, you're everybody's dealing with the heat, the humidity, dryness, everybody's putting their foot in, helping out. Um, I think I think that the best places that I see have a pretty healthy dose of that. I think it's much different now than it was 15 years ago. I think certainly now, with the way society is in general and HR, and you got to be careful on, overdoing it. But I think it's super important, to have that sort of camaraderie within the crew. I mean, that's what keeps you going when I don't have any hair left, but pulling your hair out, when it is in the mid 90s and you're spending more time with these guys and gals than you are your own families. So, to incorporate and integrate fun, into the workplace, I think it keeps you sane, it keeps you fresh, and it keeps things loose. I mean, there's not enough pressure already. With what people are dealing with, whether it's member expectations, it doesn't have to be a tournament level course. It can just be day to day, resource limitations, whatever the case may be. But when you really build that culture where people are looking out for each other, they're building each other up, not tearing them down, and they're trying to institute some fun, like picking on an intern a little bit and run them through the ringer. I mean, that's what keeps it fresh. And I think that's what keeps people wanting to come back, despite being the one that was getting picked on. I mean, that's what makes it fun. And because people care. If they're not picking on you and they're not getting on you a little bit, then that's not a good thing. You want people who are trying to get the best out of you. So, and I see that today. I mean, like I said, I was down at Woodmont yesterday. Ryan Seaver has done that. I mean, he's created a culture where you can tell whether it's the crew member or the assistant managers, they all look out for each other. They gamesmanship, the operation. Scott Borners does it really, really well, as well at the Union League. So I think and there's a lot of great examples, throughout the country of people that are doing that. And I think that's why, people want to go back, because they're having a good time.
You've definitely worked at some big tournaments and stuff. Would you recommend that to people that are working in the industry and trying to work their way up? Would you recommend volunteering at any big tournaments that are close to them if they can?
My motivation came from those tournaments to see golf at the highest level and coordinating all of those people that come to support those operations on that week and advance week, the vendor support, and you really get to meet so many unique people. Um, I can't speak more highly of it. My experience was really positive, but I do think that um, it's got to be at the right place at the right time. I've heard of different people that have not had great experiences in tournament volunteerism. So, do your due diligence, ask around, find out from people what their experience was like. Were they treated just like a basic, labor, or were they part of the team? I hate to say what kind of swag bags they were given. I mean, that always adds to the experience. Um, so I think doing some vetting, and being realistic, is that going to be a good fit for where you're at right now? But yeah, I think if you can get at some point in your early formative career to participate in tournament volunteerism, you're going to get exposed to the best of the best in some capacity, whether it's equipment, as well, seeing all the equipment that comes in. So, consultants, different salespeople. I mean, I remember, again, let's use let's use Muirfield Village, as sort of the template. I remember Tim Morgan and Russ Myers kind of doing data collection. Paul Vermillion from the PGA was there. I mean, so there's three extremely influential people, that you get to network with that you might not ever have gotten to network with before.
Skipping ahead a little bit here, Tyler, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now and when did you kind of recognize the need for this kind of business that you're doing?
Well, as you know, it's evolved kind of in a really organic way, and it's really been based off what the industry's kind of asked. But when I was a superintendent at Sparrows Point, I was not at a facility that was like an Oakmont, a Marion, a Southern Hills. I was at your standard private club, um, scrapping by for resources. I mean, I'm very open and honest that my last year there was tough. I mean, paying payroll, meeting payroll, paying for chemicals for, paying for gas for equipment. I mean, it was a challenge. The club went through a really, really tough period. And prior to that, it's Sparrows Point's not a place that you're going to necessarily go and recruit a 2 year, 4 year degree, student for an internship or an assistance role. And I had a guidance counselor come to my office one day and talk to me about apprenticeship programs. And I thought to myself, well, this is kind of like what I experienced at all these great places. Just, I'm going to have to provide that education and training, to the employees. And so, through that, and then, being out in the industry, whether it's at superintendent events, the national conference, I mean, the labor issue wasn't going away 5, 10 years ago, and it's certainly not going away anytime soon. And I had a consultant, Steve McDonald was our economic consultant, and we were touring the property one day, and he had said to me, he said, "Did you ever think about getting into recruiting consulting?" And at the time, I just didn't even think anything of it. And he kind of saw the inner workings of what we were doing. And I started doing some research, what does this even look like? What's the kind of organization that you're putting together? I wasn't really thinking staffing agency, but like recruiting firms, executive search. And you start looking at some of the other firms that are in the industry, Armin Sooney, Tim Morgan, Bruce Williams, and you kind of see what they're doing. And it's like, well, that's kind of fascinating, what their impact is. And just through a series of events and exploration, I kind of was like, I think I've got an idea here and I want to explore this. And so June of 2020, 4 years ago, I had the courage or, audacity to say or stupidity to say, we're going to try this, we're going to give it a shot. And, COVID kind of accelerated that timeline. My wife lost her job. We had our second kid coming, so we had no family support in Baltimore. And just with the direction that I saw things going with the club, and I'm glad to say they're in a great spot right now, and they're coming out of what they went through. But it just kind of accelerated that timeline and jumped full feet into it. I resigned June 12th, June 14th. I was on the road going to meet with superintendents and just to kind of network and explain kind of what we were up to. So in short order, we really have turned into, I don't want to use the word executive search because I think that's not just what we do. We do professional development, leadership development. We do a lot of workforce development activities and initiatives, whether it's helping clubs with apprenticeship programs, scholarship programs, training type programs. So it's a little bit of a blend of all those things, but I would say primarily people call us to help fill positions. I mean, they call us for assistant positions, equipment manager. Um, we've done sales positions, director of agronomy positions, so we've learned and put together a best practices structured process to help clubs do that.
What about going the other way? If there were people that were looking to make a move or move up, can they also reach out to you and see if there's anything that could be a good fit?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we probably are, we tiptoe the fine line between being like career service oriented and coaching candidates versus we get hired by the clubs, right? So we represent the club or the client, could be a manufacturer, distributor. We've had a lot of growing interest in those areas. But yeah, we do a lot of support for career development, career coaching, resume services. I have somebody on staff that actually that's what her specialty is interviewing, cover letters, resume. So, we're able to kind of help support people in that capacity. Um, and we do a lot of interview coaching. I have an online assistance program that has kind of a structured curriculum. I do a lot of one-to-one kind of resume reviews, mock interview setups with candidates. And I find that very rewarding. I mean, to have somebody to help support someone achieve their dreams professionally is equally motivating to me than helping a club find somebody to maintain their golf course and their traditions and their heritage. So it's we tiptoe that line. You know, I don't go into. I will say this: we don't go into any search with a predetermined list of candidates. Now, do I know people that most likely are going to fit criteria and be successful, you know, region to region for sure? But I think we really try to focus on treating each search project as its own unique identity because it really is. I mean, the leader and their style of leadership is going to be different than the club down the street. What one club offers versus the club down the street is two totally different dynamics. So, you know, I think we take serious pride in trying to match make the right candidates with the right job and the right leadership style.
You get to talk to a lot of aspiring superintendents. They come to you looking for training in various areas. With all the people that have come to you, assistants mainly, what's maybe the one area that you see as a common theme where these guys and gals need to improve?
Well, I think it comes down to communication, which is probably the easy thing, but the style of communication, marketing themselves and selling themselves, I think is underserved in this industry. You know, it's a very conservative industry. People don't want to be, oh, look at me, look at me. But you get that opportunity to land your dream job and you totally bomb it because you're afraid to toot your own horn a little bit. That doesn't mean you need to be posting on social media every single day, you know, but you can't be afraid to go in there and own who you are as a person. That's number one, right? To me is authenticity. I'm not hiring Chad Mark right now, right? And I'm not looking for the next Chad to be the next Chad Mark, the same person. I want to find the person that is their own individual leader who's been mentored by somebody like a Chad Mark, right? And I use Chad as an example just because he's a current guest and there's a touch point there, but I want to see an authentic person. What you believe in, what your core values are, how you treat your people, um, what's your sort of style of management agronomically, how do you present conditions, how do you relate to members, do you love the game of golf? So I think, you know, not to sound airy fairy, but there needs to be a pretty authentic self-discovery of who you are as a person. I want to know that because in most cases you can teach skills. You can't teach ambition. You can't teach a sense of ownership and pride. So I think anybody that's listening, like to me, that overcomes a lot of defaults in maybe technical skills or some of the experiences is just having a genuinely good person, an authentic person, and being able to communicate that succinctly.
And people do things differently, right? You get some people that like to talk on the phone, some people that are strictly emails, some people that if you want to get them, you got to text them. So it's everybody's a little bit different, and it's great that you're able to bridge the gap between a lot of that. I just wanted to go back. You started the company in 2020, but in 2019 you wrote the blog of the year. So did that maybe spark something for you, or did that maybe get the ball rolling?
I've been gifted, and again from somebody else far greater powers than myself, but I've been very fortunate and gifted with certain skills and communication that have helped me. When I was 17 years old, I did a job shadow at a local newspaper and sports reporting, and I followed and job shadowed, and they said, why don't you write an article on the game?" And I did, and they published it. And then I got hired as basically a co-op student, and so you know, I had influence from people who were very successful in that career pathway, and then I just leveraged that and just got better, right? And leveraged it in my own unique way, whether I was an assistant superintendent writing member emails, green committee minutes, you know, I just kind of harnessed that skill and developed it for our specialty. And then when I was a superintendent, you know, I used the blog to communicate because we had an uneducated membership about their own golf course. So just keeping people updated on, you know, weekly progress, projects, course conditions, and what was happening. And you know, fortunately was recognized for it. But yeah, I mean, those things have translated into now, you know, helping people with their cover letters, resumes. When ironically, when I was an assistant, I gave a presentation at the Philadelphia Club Managers Association, all about communications, club communications, career marketing, career materials, things of that nature. And I started getting hired by general managers, assistant GMs, superintendents. So, like at an early stage in my career, I was being exposed to what hiring committees were looking for in their next leader and how people were positioning themselves, for jobs. So I had a little side hustle, so that actually probably started more in like 2012 of when I actually thought I had something that was different. Just needed time to kind of like, gain credibility and mature that thought.
So what are they looking for?
Who's that?
The you mentioned the GMs and all that kind of stuff. You got an inside look at what they're looking for. Is it that authenticity that you talked about earlier, or what are employers looking for right now?
Yeah, I mean, the competence and the technical skills is almost, they take that for granted, but I mean that area you need to own. You can't
Mhm.
you can't look past those technical qualifications. So master all the things that you're doing right now as an assistant or a greenskeeper, because it's going to be important when you're trying to coach and mentor and influence your own team. It's hard to do that if you don't know the job, right? But I think at a high level now, certainly given the struggles of labor, I think most clubs are looking for great leaders. They want people who can motivate, inspire their people, who can retain people, um, organizationally understand how to meet sort of the business components, the economics of the finances of a club, but also match that with a team that really, for lack of a better terms, gives a shit, and wants to show up and do a good job and be prideful of the logo that they wear on their shirt. Um, they want somebody who's authentic. They don't want somebody who's going to come in and blow smoke and say, we're going to do all these things. They want somebody to come in and own what they're going to say, do what you say you're going to do. Um, because they're smart people. They can tell when something's not being done. They may not know all the intricacies of how things don't work, but when attention to details slip in and the crew's slacking off, or the golf course isn't performing to a base standard, they know when something's off. So um, I also think it's look, I don't know if I entirely agree that pedigree is everything, but I do think clubs really respect somebody who's been intentional about working for the right superintendents that have a history of promoting and developing people. Um, I think club members, no matter what level, are going to be discerning enough to say, hey, we want somebody that's operating at a higher level than we are. So being really selective on, your career choices and where you go, I think that's important. Um, Man, but they want somebody who's going to represent them, an ambassador for their club. And I don't know if I ever remember that being as important as it is today, that cultural fit. But they're really looking for superintendents and club leaders who fit the fabric of that membership. Um, so I think that's hard sometimes because how do you prepare for that? You are who you are, but again, it comes back to some of the choices you make in your career and the clubs and people you work for, because everybody wants to level up from where they're at. Well, business doesn't, and they want to be associated with people that have higher standards than they do.
What was it like for you, Tyler, when you became superintendent for the first time? What was that whole process like for you?
Um, Extremely rewarding. It is so difficult to get a superintendent's job. I don't care if it's at a top 100 facility or it's your local mom and pop. It is so hard to break through the wall and get a superintendent's opportunity. And so I cherished it. I mean, I really enjoyed all the different new challenges that came about. And there was a lot. I mean, you take that leap from being an assistant to a superintendent, is there's nothing that can really prepare you for it, but you got to have the confidence to know that you've been through difficult circumstances. You didn't have all the answers, but you got the right people to ask, and you have confidence in yourself, to just kind of go for it. So, um, I would say it was extremely rewarding for me. I guess if maybe to get into specifics, I mean, I had a I had a maintenance facility where we had a portable restroom as our employee bathroom. We had leaks in the ceiling. This was not a perfect scenario by any stretch. So you have to be creative and think outside the box. Um, And then you're dealing with the golf course too, right? So like I said, we had an uneducated membership, so their IQ of agronomy, golf course maintenance was pretty raw. So just I think pacing myself as well with the membership was important, and really understanding what their perspectives of great conditions were versus mine. Were not polar opposites, but it was important, I think, for me to realize I needed to be patient with myself early on, because this wasn't going to be an operation that could go at the speed of which I was probably used to. But it made it fun. The small little improvements, um, simple things like painting the hole in white made a difference. Making sure all the team markers were cleaned, properly aligned towards the center of play, making sure the bunker rakes were properly placed every day, setting the table essentially. Those were the small details that I think made a huge impression early on. It wasn't, having greens that were running 12 feet and firm as, cement. That was too much for them. So those little small victories year in, year out, I think just really motivated me and kept me pretty refined. And then as, I matured in the role, the, seeing the staff and seeing what we developed was really cool, because it was a school of hard knocks. I mean, we did not have, like I said, we didn't have 15 turf educated guys to pull from. I was fortunate. I had a great assistant. Her name was Kelly, and she was, if it wasn't for her, I don't think I would have survived. Kelly really kind of helped set the stage for this apprenticeship program, and some of the leadership stuff that we developed. But that was where I had the biggest source of pride, was within the team, to see people buy into a culture and professional development, and that, they could start as a basic greenskeeper making 15, 14, 13 bucks an hour, in 3 or 4 years have a career.
So was that, trying to figure out how to phrase this question correctly, was that the ideal fit for you? And I guess what I'm trying to get at is, what advice would you have for assistants? I see a lot of people that are in a hurry to get their first superintendent job instead of being patient and finding that right fit. Was that kind of the right fit for you? Were you in a hurry to get your first job? I guess expand, if that makes sense. Expand upon that and the importance of maybe waiting for the right fit.
Well, I mean, again, I could, if I looked at my peers, okay, and we named some of those guys, they all landed great jobs. And Sparrows Point was not that level. Had I been more patient and maybe been a little bit more discerning on where I was at and the places I was working, and was really true to what my goals were professionally, I probably should have been more patient, and really thought about that versus just jumping into something. And then you get into it and you're like, oh man, this is not what I thought I signed up for. And listen, no committee is going to be able to portray that, because they don't know. They don't know what's underneath the hood, right? And you have to really do your due diligence when you're interviewing for a job. You're interviewing them. I mean, I would actually turn that, if I were to go back, I would turn that around and be doing reference checks on them. I'd be calling suppliers. I would be getting members to kind of vet out what kind of club this is. I'd be checking out GuideStar to look at their club financials, just to get an understanding of what kind of club they are. Um, I would probably do a little bit more due diligence on my side of it. But again, I don't have regrets, because if it wasn't for Sparrows Point, I would not be where I'm at right now. So all that being said, I turned probably what most people would say is like a graveyard job into a really like great opportunity for myself. And I think where the club's at right now is much different. So yeah, I think you should be patient. But listen, I was also motivated by the fact that all my peers were getting superintendent jobs 27, 28, 29. I probably just didn't have the awareness that what my ultimate goals were, because what became difficult was when I went through the interview process through as being a superintendent at some other great clubs, and I'll keep them nameless, but some pretty prominent jobs. And I always seem to find myself in the room, for final interviews or, in-person type interviews. I still would face the challenge that I wasn't coming from an institution that, or organization that they saw themselves at. And they could not get behind that, as they have to go, a selection committee has to go back to a large contingent of their peers, and they have to be able to communicate as to why they chose this person over somebody else. And that's terrible. Listen, that I'm not a judge of character or pick candidates' qualifications because of sometimes where they worked, but it is important to these club members that they have a sense of pride and and they've made discerning choices in their life to higher up and to level up. It's like it's the same thing as choosing cars. A Honda CRV does great, man. But some people like to choose BMW because it's BMW. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong. That's just the discerning choice that that they're capable and able to make in their life. And that's unfortunately, I think that's the hardest part of my job now, is because I see myself in so many candidates that are exceptionally gifted, technically sufficient and progressive, and yet they're held back because of a small little bias because of where they work. And that's frustrating, but I lived it. I was that candidate that couldn't break through the wall on that. And I was self-aware enough towards the end of my time at Sparrows Point to recognize, like, I have to make two decisions here. I either pivot and take a lateral move if I want to get to that club, right? If that's my goal, and everybody's goals are different. If I want to get to that next level club, I'm going to have to make a sidestep here and probably take a step back for 2 to 3 years to elevate back into that role. For me, I just looked at what I'm doing now as an opportunity to make a bigger impact.
It's fantastic. And being on the other side of the desk now, is there something or a couple things that you truly miss about being a superintendent?
I miss the team. I mean, I really do. I mean, I have a great team of awesome people who have, in a really weird way, have come to our company, slightly because they dealt with the same sort of career challenges that I dealt with, just in different industries. And they wanted to be a part of something where they're helping people, achieve their career goals, or a club achieve their business goals. Um, but I miss the day-to-day teamwork. I love seeing the Instagram count you guys have with people, whether it's airify, and there was one the other day, a guy put a triplex with the tree limb over, and I think of how many times I would do dumb stuff like that, but made it really fun. Um, I mean, the sense of pride that you have when you create a product and you choreograph, you know, controlled chaos to present a product for people to recreate and enjoy every day. I miss those things. And, but on the same token, I'm on a golf course probably 2 to 3 times a week with maintenance crews. So in some ways, like, I'm getting the best of what I loved about the industry and don't have to worry about some of the things that I didn't like, which wasn't a whole lot. I mean, I really loved being a golf course superintendent. All the challenges and problem solving you deal with, and the personalities. I mean, you're dealing with you could be dealing with in the morning a person making minimum wage, living paycheck to paycheck. You got to motivate that person as much as a CEO executive at a Fortune 500 company, and motivate them why they need to spend thousands of dollars to invest into an irrigation system. So the diversity of how your day and the people you interact with can be such a dynamic scope, as a golf course superintendent. So I miss that, but we get a little bit of that, in what we do, just in a different way.
Was going to say you still have quite a team, just internally with your company, and then also just your network and the people that you visit every day. You talked about it earlier, of your network and the people that you came up in the industry with, and now that they've kind of made an impact and help you in this new step and stage of your career. Talk about those relationships and how important they've been to your career growth and where you are now.
Whew, man, I could get pretty emotional about it. Hmm. Sorry, just give me a second.
Yeah,
No,
man,
you're
take
good,
your
man.
time.
It's the best part of the industry, right? The people helping people.
Whew, man, you got me on that one. I feel like Russ after you got him at LACC.
That's right.
Seriously. Oh man.
I was not expecting that from Ross, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, man. I think of there's a lot of people who I've never met in my life if it wasn't through what I'm doing now, and the connections that I've made through this venture. But I named a lot of those people who really really believed in me.
Getting me emotional now, dude.
Well, it's it's crazy because there's a lot of people that believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You try to pay back what people have done for you, and that's kind of the beauty of what I get to do now, because I get to see I get to see myself in a lot of people at different stages of their careers, and hopefully shed things that don't do what I did, make those same mistakes so they can achieve what they want. And then simultaneously, I think of guys like Scott Pavalko, Scott Bordner, Matt Powell, Kyle Callahan. I mean, the guys that I worked in the trenches with. And, listen, we've all had challenges with people we've worked with. And there's some people I haven't talked about that, we went to war side by side with. But those are the guys that now I'm fortunate and blessed to get to help in their current roles, build their teams, because we have that reference point of what it was like, um, coming up in the industry and really trying to help them navigate a really difficult environment with the labor market. So, to be that source of inspiration, I think for them and their teams. I mean, I will tell you, one of the most gratifying things for me is to go do turf talks with the assistants. I'll be heading to not to name drop, but I'll be heading to Marion next Tuesday, to meet with the team at Marion, and it's such a source of inspiration for me, and what we do to try to make that kind of impact on people. And listen, not everybody's going to be a superintendent at a Marion, a Muirfield, not, and that's okay. That you don't have success is not defined, by that logo for everybody. Success can be defined in various ways, and some of the most impactful relationships I have are with guys that I work side by side with that are in other areas of the industry. So that thing that's been important to me to kind of really convey that message as well. But it really starts with, you have to get philosophical, and I made that comment about these guys. A lot of these people believed more in me than I believed in myself, is because I had to learn how to develop a standard for myself, not predicated by Paul Atshaw, Russ Myers, Matt Schaefer, a John Zimmers, a Scott Kroll. It needed to be internal, and I needed to learn what that standard was for myself, and then evolve that standard personally, professionally. And that's not, I'm not a rah-rah cheerleader on that. That's really what I believe in. And so that's the kind of impact that those guys had on me. Um, and really kind of mentored that and nurtured that over time. And the guys that I get to work with now, um, have really motivated me to level up. There was a point early on when I started the company that, be truthful, like I was nervous and scared about going to work with guys at those prestigious clubs because I didn't want to let them down. But what I came to find is a real commonality of everybody wants to help each other. Those guys pushed me in my current business. So that's, again, when I get emotional, it's because of that. Those guys, when I started my company, challenged me. They ridiculed me. They were just like they were when we worked together. They were brutally honest with me and gave me such good feedback that has helped form what we're doing now. And then, we've been blessed and fortunate to work with people outside of my network, my initial network. And there's 100 ways to skin a cat in this industry. And there's, like I said, there's other definitions of success, and those people have made as much of an impact on who we are and what we do. So, I don't know. It's a long-winded answer, but it's kind of how I feel.
It's a great answer.
Well, we're so fortunate that you did work with all those people because now you're able to pass that all on to everybody coming up behind them. So all those legacies and everything and all those little tidbits and lessons and stuff that you picked up and maybe even bad days you had to go and experience things and learn lessons, you're able to pass all that stuff on now. So, I'm very glad that you were able to go through all that stuff just for our industry because it's really going to benefit everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been a really fun journey. When I say I'm blessed, I mean I've gotten to walk places people dream of. And side by side with some of the most accomplished superintendents, and also then the unsung heroes, the people that nobody knows about in this industry but are highly impressive. And for them to welcome me into like their operations, it's a vulnerable thing. I really think about that a lot, is that superintendents put themselves out there by bringing me in, knowing that like my heart's in it to help them. It's not to criticize or ridicule them, or it's not like the grave diggers walking in, as we do executive search for superintendent jobs. Like, I'm there to help them keep their jobs and thrive in their jobs, and help them build their teams. So, but it's a vulnerable spot to be in, and I certainly respect that with the utmost confidentiality and sensitivity. So I don't take it for granted one bit.
Outstanding, man. Lots of great info and good stuff. And I've certainly enjoyed following your journey here. So it's been quite impressive watching you evolve here.
Yeah, well, it's been fun to see, what you've created, and kind of the direction you're going here with the podcast. And same thing. I mean, just it's fun to see people you've kind of worked side by side with succeed and evolve. And same thing for you guys. It'll be fun to watch the maturation of the podcast and what you guys have coming.
Yeah, loving yours. So I guess follow-up question based on our interview when I was on yours. Has your staff succeeded in making you more interesting?
As I said, it's a work in progress. Um, I think so, man. I joked with the team. We had our team meeting today, and I said, and we have we have quarterly goals, personally, professionally, and one of those is how to make us, and how to have more fun, have more fun in life, and what things are you doing with your family, things of that nature. I think is such an important thing. So I'm getting there. I'm not as stale. I'm not as stale and one-sided. I'm multidimensional.
Well, you're definitely a great conversation here. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We need to have some more fun. So it's life's too short.
And if people are going to reach out to you, Tyler, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
They can go to our website, tylerbloomconsulting.com. We offer free advice through our blog, our podcast. They can contact me via email, Tyler@tylerbloomconsulting.com. But they can follow us on our Twitter account, tbloom_golf, LinkedIn, Instagram. We have all of that. So, and we do that. The social media stuff is more about education and information. For us to kind of share things that we see in our travels too. Again, hopefully to be a source of inspiration for others.
Do you see social media becoming bigger in our industry?
It's an interesting one, because I think social media can be really dangerous. I've experienced that myself. You got to be really careful on what you put out there, and how that can be misinterpreted or gets in the hands of the wrong person. And that creates a nasty storm that you have no control over. But I think the positives far outweigh those negatives, right? You just have to set some safeguards for yourself. Don't engage on things that, it's like, don't talk politics and don't talk things at the dinner table. It's the same thing on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think as it relates to garnering interest, awareness about the career, about the profession, I think it's a home run. I mean, the reach potential. And so, I mean, you look at your following, 150,000 people that follow that account. I mean, that's incredible. So the impact that can be had can be very positive if nurtured the right way. So, I mean, that's partially why people hire us, is our social media following. I mean, our exposure in the digital spaces. There's nobody that can compete with it right now, at least in this sector on the turfgrass side. It's a great way to reach and connect with people. You network with guys that you never meet. Social media is sort of like it's become, it's socially acceptable to reach out to somebody via LinkedIn in another country, or somebody you look up to and you want to get to know. I mean, it's a great way to network for job seeking. I mean, want me to give a quick career tip is, if you're looking and you want to work at some place, list your top 20 jobs and the companies you want to work for. Okay. Go on LinkedIn and find the GM, find the director of golf, find the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and introduce yourself. Don't ask for a referral. Don't ask for a job. Introduce yourself. Tell them how much you admire their work, their company, what you admire about them, people will not forget that. And I coached somebody today on my way home from DC, is that just unfortunately lost their job. And I had suggested going through that exercise and said the best jobs are never posted. The best jobs are formed through a relationship. And if you put yourself out there a little bit, when the time comes that they need to hire somebody or they're thinking about creating a position, they're going to remember you for putting your name out there.
I think that's great advice.
Outstanding. You got any final thoughts here, Tyler? Anything we haven't really touched upon?
Dude, we could spend hours chatting it up.
100%.
Sure could.
Um, Man, we covered a lot. I mean, I would encourage people to, if they've not reviewed the 2024 Golf Course Superintendent Employment Trends report that we did, to really check that out. They can go to our website and find that under our blog. There's a lot of really good information about what hiring committees are looking for, what superintendents would recommend to people coming up in the industry, what skills they're going to need. So that covers quite a bit. But I just think, it's what I talked about, that self-discovery of like, you really gotta sit back and define what success looks like for you. And don't be influenced because of other people or what their projections are for you in your career. You need to do the homework yourself and and have the discipline to stay focused on that. And if you have people that aren't supporting you in those initiatives, then get new friends, get a new inner
Yeah.
circle. That was one of the big things I had to do when I started the company, was eliminate a lot of friendships for that time period because they didn't support what I was going to do. And that's okay. And not that those people aren't friends now, but surround yourself with people that are going to kick you in the butt and, get the best out of you. I think that's important.
Yep, I think you nailed it. This has been a great interview too, Tyler. Like, we really appreciate you coming on here and putting yourself out there and telling us your story, because it sounds like you're helping a lot of people. And if we can support you in any way and the people you're trying to help, we'd love to do that. So definitely let us know what we can do.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate I appreciate you getting me at a moment of, you caught me pretty good there. I wasn't ready for that.
Well, you handled it well.
Thanks.
I'm jumping on. I'm getting ready to jump on a call with Matty Powell here in about 10 minutes. So I'll make sure he knows you dropped his name a few times.
Yeah, there you go. That's free PR for them.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome, dude. Well, again, appreciate your time. Good luck finding that sod stretcher. Hopefully one of these days you'll come upon it.
Yeah.
But
I just opened myself up to the industry, because anytime I go in, I'll be like, hey, there's that guy that's looking for the side stretch.
there he is. We're gonna make one for you for sure.
Oh,
I appreciate
Make you
that.
something for your desk. It'll be great.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Well, hey, thanks again for your time. Always great to chat.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Yeah.
okay.
Likewise.
Take care, Tyler. That was
Good
a great
stuff.
great way to end that. The sod stretcher. Awesome.
That's such a good story.
Oh,
I can't believe
yeah.
I'd never heard that one. That was so good.
Yeah. Well, I going back listening to the Ben McGraw episode, I love how he got you pretty good with the whole being too soft for the industry, but then you got him back with the TikTok light or vice versa or
Yeah,
whatever. It was good. I was laughing laughing at you guys.
Oh yeah, we have good time, man. Some great guests on here. Always fun to kick it around with these guys.
Yeah, that's the part of our industry that I love the most, is the work hard, play hard. Professionals, right?
Yeah.
You're out there on the course and it's business. You get back into the shop and everybody's 15 again. Like, it's
Oh yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. Absolutely. At the end of the day, everyone wants to kind of do the same thing, work hard and then tell horror stories and war stories over a beverage or so.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And to everybody out there, we hope you enjoy your time with your colleagues, with your coworkers, with the crew. Work hard, play hard, enjoy yourselves. That's why we're here. Sit back and tell those stories. Tell the good ones, tell the bad ones. That's how this industry is going to evolve. It's always how it's evolved. By people talking to people, sharing this amazing thing, and working hard together. And join us here next week for a massive announcement. Oh yeah. Keep them sharp. Peace.